welcome guys. Here we
Are
are.
we recording?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been recording this whole time.
Oh, I didn't know.
Checking work emails.
Yeah.
We're going to have to deal with tomorrow. Hello.
We're here to talk
I'm
about...
vaping furiously while you do it.
Well, these emails stress me out. We're introducing ourselves. Hi, I'm Victoria.
I don't think we need to do that.
Oh.
Do we?
Oh, it's Cindy.
That's Melissa. All right. We're going to...
I thought we were supposed to do an intro. And
Well, yeah, I was trying to do that and say we're here to discuss season 2, episodes 10, 11, and 12. Right?
yes,
Okay.
that's
All right.
why we're here.
All right.
Drinking and vaping furiously and checking work emails, but this is the real reason why.
Yeah. All right, so I just want to put it out there first before we go any further that I kind of have to admit that I feel like I'm watching the show for the first time again because I don't remember any of this shit that's
Well,
going
it's
on.
20 years ago.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect you to remember the television that you watched.
You get a
20 years
pass.
Okay, good. I don't know because I have
Although
some...
I do remember all of the episodes of TNG that I watched. That's Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I was like, what the fuck is
I was like, Teenage Mutant Ninja? No, that's not it.
The Next Generation.
Nerd alert.
For real.
I think they're more memorable than Dawson's Creek, maybe. For me. Whatever.
Did you ever watch Dawson's Creek, though?
No, but she
No.
didn't. But I mean, I think she'd aged out of Dawson's Creek
I had,
already.
but my point is that TNG was on from 1980, late 80s until the early mid 90s.
Oh, and you remember that?
Yeah, if I watched an episode, if one came on television, I'd be like, I know this episode.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah.
watched it a lot then. Like every rerun you probably watched.
I mean, I probably watched it a few times.
Okay,
The whole
yeah. I
Star
mean,
Trek.
You
I
probably had it on
watched
tape.
I watched Dawson's Creek when it was on, and then as soon as it ended, never again. So, yes, 20 years later, it's hard for me to remember everything that's happened in this show. So, but I just want to say that because the whole premise was that I'm supposed to be rewatching it again as if I'm going to remember things, and I don't remember anything.
Is that triggering anything for you?
No, actually, not really.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you mean like childhood trauma?
No, just
Well,
like
yeah.
you trigger, like you. I wouldn't expect you to recall the whole plot of the show, but as you watch it, you might be like, oh yeah.
Oh, I
Right,
thought you meant
yeah.
like suppressed trauma.
This isn't therapy, Cindy.
Maybe it should be.
I mean, it sort of
You
is.
said that. I think you say that every single time we talk about this show. Yeah, no. Well, I kind of thought what you might have meant was like, oh, I remember what I was going through in high school, or I remember watching this. I remember being that high school Melissa and watching this episode.
Well, is it triggering any of that for you?
No.
So, did you watch it?
I know, right? Did I watch this show? I mean, I
Maybe
remember...
you just thought you did. Maybe you're just trying to be cool and be like, yeah, I watched Dawson's
I'm
Creek.
trying to be cool.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
I'm trying to be cool. I was such a big fan of Dawson's Creek. And they made such a big deal of it when the 20th anniversary came around. You know, they put all the main people on the cover of People or Entertainment Weekly or some week.
They also put them on my high school planner.
Yes,
And I had
that's
some
right.
thoughts on it. I went through, just for the one listener that we might get for this episode, I went through my memory box when I went home from high school. And every year they would give us a planner so that we could write down like what we had to study for each day in preparation for the week or whatever.
Yeah,
and
my
they were always
school,
like,
my school gave us a planner too, but we didn't have anything like yours. It wasn't...
ours had ads, like Skechers shit was in there, and then whatever. The WB, I guess, it was all WB shows.
I mean, that makes sense because in the late 90s, the WB was all
It was
teen
hip.
dramas.
It was so
right.
cool.
It was the network to watch. It totally tried to corner the market on young preteens and teenagers.
You know what I
for
never had
sure.
on? The WB. I never watched any of those shows.
There's some good shows on the WB.
There were some good shows on the WB.
What else was on the WB?
Buffy.
I didn't watch that shit.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer was really good.
BT dubs. We're talking about Buffy next.
We
My
can
So-Called Life.
talk about Buffy next.
Anyway, so I found this one planner and there was Dawson's Creek on the front, and I had some things to say about Jen it was Jen and Dawson on the front, like smiling or whatever, and I wrote. Can't remember
You
who I
wrote
wrote.
whore
I wrote whore over Jen
Jen.
and circled it, and then I wrote slut over Dawson and like underlined
I mean, you
it.
got one of them right.
You got
And
one.
then there was some other WB show where they had like a smaller picture of I can't remember. He's like, I wish I remembered this actor's name. And I wrote over top of him. I put an arrow,
yes.
and I wrote Miss. Because it was one of my teachers, and I guess like I was saying these are sluts and whores, but like looks like this black man. I don't know.
Miss? A female teacher.
She was an old
looked like
lady.
a black guy.
I don't understand where my head was at. I don't know.
All right. Yes. So,
But I did
Cindy,
not
Go
like
on. Sorry.
Dawson's Creek. I mean, that's
Yeah, that's the
point of
point.
the
The
story.
point you're making. Yeah. So.
My high school did not give out branded planners. I think my town that I grew up in wasn't big enough for that.
for television.
No,
to have to print those
to
things.
give out planners
Yeah,
to the
like-
students.
Yeah, like you guys grew up in major-ish metropolitan areas. I did not. So we didn't have. There was no swag at school.
Well, I feel like they could have saved the money that they put into a stupid fucking WB planner and used it for something better, maybe.
Well, it was free.
Well, no. I mean, that means the local network paid your school.
Oh, they were targeting schools. Not
Yeah,
the
they
other
were
way
like,
around.
so they were
schools-
giving money to the school, probably.
They're like, hey, do you want these free planners to give out to your students? It'll be useful for them. It's also filled
For
with
like
ads.
a small town, they would just look you.
Yeah, they'd be
you
like,
over.
well, no, this is not.
This is not a major market. Moving on.
Yeah.
Aww.
Roanoke, Virginia.
That's sad. You didn't get the satisfaction of writing whore and slut on characters' faces on school planners.
We've tasked Cindy with next time she goes home, she has to bring this planner back so we can take some proper pictures of it and post it somewhere for our one listener to view.
Yeah.
Because it's funny.
It'll bring someone joy.
Yeah,
It'll
it brought
bring the
me
one person
joy.
joy.
I thought it was hilarious.
All right, so episode 10.
Okay, so high risk behavior. So I'm calling this the sex episode.
Definitely was the sex app.
And not to get too far ahead, but there's cliffhangers at the end, quote unquote, that sort of bleed into the next episode, because I watched it, and then the second episode happened, and I'm like, wait, did I miss something? And I had to like sort of rewatch, and I didn't. They left all the questions unanswered at the end of this episode.
Clever.
So clever.
So we have some obvious pairings here. I mean, I guess obvious just based on episode 9, right? So Joey and Jack went on a date in the last episode.
Yeah.
So they're kind of a developing relationship.
Uh-huh.
And then we have Pacey and Andy, who are a full-blown relationship.
Yep.
And then Dawson and Jen are a rekindling relationship.
But still no boning. Yet.
I thought it was so uncomfortable and awkward and stupid that in the opening scene when Dawson and Pacey are practicing lines and then they come really close together and you all like
Well, the whole
it's like the
setup
show
to this.
is trying to like insinuate that Pacey and Dawson are gay and they're about to engage in a gay
psych.
kiss. But psych, Dawson's just like reaching past
Isn't that
Pacey
so
to
funny?
grab the script or
It's
whatever.
a product of its time, and that's where we were culturally then.
That is true. Yeah,
And
I mean
it's weird to like go back and watch things. How many years ago was this?
20
I
years
mean,
ago.
things change a lot in 20,
20 years
years
ago is a long time ago, but it's just
It made me really uncomfortable too.
Well, I mean, from the moment that scene started, I was like, oh, they're running lines.
well, I knew
Because-
that
yeah.
immediately. But,
Yeah,
But
when
it's still
they-
supposed to be funny. I mean, that's like
So they're running lines, and Pacey is supposed to be reading the
the
female,
female.
and then they're done, and then Dawson leans in
Well, they both kind of like start to lean in toward each
because
other.
it's the
a little
moment.
bit.
It's the moment in the scene
in the
where
in the play or in the script.
where they would kiss, but then like Dawson like reaches for something and he's like, you were supposed to say this, and Pacey's like, why don't you get a real actor to do this? I don't want to.
They're really comfortable being female.
I don't want to run lines with you.
I think it's just further proof that this show is super dated and outdated.
So Dawson is casting for his movie, his screenplay that he has gotten funding for. He won like a little grant.
He won the Boston Junior Film Festival thing.
So now he's holding casting episodes at his school for his own personal project. I don't know how that works, but a lot of people are interested
His main mistake with casting, you don't fucking hold a casting thing for the whole school. You target the theater kids and you target the people who at least have an interest or some experience doing some acting. And then they're so shocked when like everyone's terrible. Well, you have cheerleaders fucking auditioning for some shit.
Also, why would they? Why
Cheerleaders and football players would not be auditioning for in real life.
They only would in my high school because I went to a magnet school and all the art kids also did sports. Everyone went there for art. Some form of art. Theater, band, whatever. And then like sports were sort of an afterthought. So they would just do it like...
Well, as someone who didn't go to a magnet school...
But generally speaking, that's why you need to target
the
the theater
cheerleaders
kids.
and football players in my school would not have tried out for a play.
Yeah.
Or this movie, whatever.
Yeah, my high school was the same. It was a general public high school. You did this, or you did this, or you did that. You didn't do like both. You weren't like
did not talk to anyone who did that if you did this.
You weren't
Exactly.
multifaceted in any way.
Not at all. Nope.
So what ends up happening is
They bring back Chris. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, Chris. So Chris Wolf, the
Chris Wolf,
the
male slut.
Yeah, and Abby, the school bitch, audition inexplicably. I mean, Chris Wolf explains it because he's like, "Oh, I want to be an actor, and actors get laid." So he's like, actors are famous and they have money and they get laid. Maybe I want to be an actor. I'm gonna audition for this. So and they end up being the ones that like
that kind of do the best.
Yeah, they aren't the worst.
Yeah.
So they get cast. So again,
did they get cast?
Didn't they? Yeah.
Chris Wolf did.
Okay.
I thought
Abby like ran out in a
think-
huff because
he kissed her and she's like, ew.
But I thought she got cast because they're approached later and Jen's like, give me your schedules because.
Oh, you're right.
So I think they were like the least worst, so they got cast. But they're like the two most horrible people in the school, and they're like, and Dawson's like, okay, you're the lead in my movie. I'm gonna work with you, and his whole movie is like about him.
It is painfully transparent.
Yeah, it's about him and
Joey.
And everybody's calling him out on it. And they don't, and the characters, so the main plot of this is that the characters in his movie don't have sex. And he keeps going on and on about how, well, it's supposed to be romantic and maybe it transcends that. And everyone's like, why don't they bang?
Well, and then he's saying that sex is so obvious. That the two lead characters having sex is the obvious thing to do.
But, well,
he's such a little bitch. Like, dude, people have sex. Just fucking...
Well, then he doesn't
he
doesn't want to write about sex because
he doesn't know about sex.
He hasn't had sex, so he doesn't know how to write about sex. So he's trying to, like...
Why doesn't he just be honest? Say, I can't write about a thing I don't have experience with. I've never had my dong, my D and a V. I'm not going to sit here and write about it for hours.
So during the course of this, he's told multiple times, including by Jen, who is his producer now, who is trying to get him to like experience life so that he can write it in a deeper.
Because she knows about sex. And
she knows
love.
all about.
Yeah.
Boning.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of this episode, and this is one of 3 narratives of this episode, but at the end, he crawls through her window. And we see them, like, making out.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happens.
No.
Here was my take on that final scene. I was like, everyone's giving her shit about being a huge slut this whole time. She's like, night-night time. She's being very responsible for once. She's in her PJs. She's in bed. You're going to crawl through her window and ruin all of this. Like, she's trying her best right now. He's gonna crawl in.
What I was thinking
Well,
of...
he doesn't care, and she's been like pining after him ever since she broke up with him.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, oh.
And they just had a talk, like, or she basically was just dropping knowledge on him about how all love is rooted in lust or something like that. So that's why these two characters in your movie should be having sex, because it's just the natural progression of things. And so he starts to think about that and then crawls into her window. What I was thinking about was, how did he get up in her window? Because she's sleeping up on the second floor too.
No, he just
did he like
he brought that?
did he
ladder.
carry his ladder from
Yes.
his house to her
That's
house?
how determined he was.
And then quietly, without her hearing anything, hoisted that ladder onto the side of her
on the
house.
side of the house and
Imagine
crawled
how
up,
much-
and then she was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?"
Dawson, what? I didn't even hear you.
Imagine how
Like,
much he was clunking that thing down the street too, because they're
No,
really
no.
long.
No, but
They're right
not
next
down the
door.
street. They're right next door. Like there's a
Oh.
yard
He just dragged that
He just
ladder
dragged
across
across the
backyard.
lawn. Yeah.
And tore up the fucking yard.
Right.
What a dick.
yeah.
His
like-
parents knew exactly what he was doing too.
He's like,
They're
I'm
I
Give
was
me
a
some.
little. I was a little confused by the logistics. I'm like, how did he get up there?
We aren't supposed to think about that. It was supposed to be like a weird role reversal, because it was always Joey crawling into his window, and now he's crawling into Jen's.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say, if I could have remembered watching this in high school, yeah, I certainly wasn't, as a teenager, thinking about like, how did he get up there?
no,
I was just like,
where there's a
my
roll,
young
there's a way.
teenage hormones were just in overdrive watching that whole scene happen. Like, oh, it's happening again. They're back together. I might have been happy about it. I can't remember clearly.
Meh.
Sorry.
Uh,
I want to talk about something in the beginning of the episode before we move on. Pacey gets an HIV test.
Why?
oh, because him and Andy have been like talking about if they want to have sex or not.
Bonin, and she said she was going to get an HIV test, but she's never had sex before.
And I'm
correct?
wondering why he is also willing to get an HIV test, because he's only had one partner, and you would think that.
I feel like there's just like a PSA that they dropped.
It
in.
is.
Oh,
And here
yeah,
was
yeah.
my reaction
Yeah.
to the PSA. They didn't say STD test. He said HIV specifically.
Specifically.
So here's the thing. I was like, based on their location and like everything we know about these characters, they're like white, middle, upper class teenagers in fucking, where are they, in Cape Cod or some shit? Massachusetts. I really don't think HIV is a thing they need to be worrying about. More like the clap. Like maybe they should be getting tested for the
Yeah,
clap,
I mean
or
they all have syphilis, but what they're worried about is HIV.
I don't think that's like HIV is a serious concern for a 16-year-old middle.
They were
upper.
just trying to throw that in. They're like, hey, this episode's going to be about sex.
I mean, in the
should've
late
also go get
90s,
tested.
Yeah.
I mean, HIV had been a huge worry in the early 80s. But was there something going on in the late 90s where it was coming back as a huge problem?
No, I think it was really just to promote getting tested. But the thing that they should have been talking about is like
All of them?
gonorrhea and
All
fucking
of them.
chlamydia.
All STDs, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have said STD test, instead of specifically.
Specifically, all these
An
kids have the
an
clap.
HIV
Like you
test.
know they're running around with the clap, and like some are pregnant. Like maybe they should have addressed that briefly.
Yeah, like pregnancy.
Well,
prevention.
they've tried the pregnancy thing. They've already done the pregnancy PSA with Joey faking a pregnancy.
Mm.
You weren't around for that.
Mm.
But that was brought up in season 1. Well, we can continue talking about Andy and Pacey's story in this episode.
Yeah, Andy, they're starting to like talk about like, what if we have sex? What if? What will that look like?
Yes.
Yeah. And then every time this episode made me fuck crazy. It made me uncomfortable. I didn't like watching each of them be weird around one another. Just bone or don't bone.
They're teenagers.
It's their first time.
And that's a whole other thing. Andy and Pacey, she was talking about fucking like the right moment and what she had in her head as the perfect moment. You can't create the first time. It's good, and it's gonna be a mess. It's not gonna be great.
I mean,
You don't even know what you're doing.
That's true.
That's true.
But they don't know that.
But they don't know that, and that is every.
That's every.
That's a typical teenager thought. Is that the first time that you're gonna have sex, it's gonna be perfect and it's gonna be amazing. And
I didn't have that thought. I was very nervous.
I mean, I did. Oh, and then mine ended up happening. I don't want to say.
Well,
but
yes,
I'll tell you what
that's
happened
what happens.
with mine.
You have an idea.
You have an idea,
and then it just happens.
and it might have been perpetrated. What might have been, you know, the idea perpetuated. Thank you. It might have. Sorry, two glasses of two glasses of wine. 2 glasses of wine. All right,
percolated. It was percolated.
two glasses of wine. By a show like Dawson's Creek, where
definitely
where magazines and TV shows are telling young teenagers how the first time is going to go.
And maybe that's why I didn't believe any of that, because I didn't watch.
I was definitely given huge eye rolls when Andy was mapping out her perfect night. I'm like, girl, no.
I mean, I think when I was a teenager, I had some ideas about how I would like it to be, but I also was realistic, and I was like, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be a shit show.
I didn't even have any ideas. I was like, I don't know how it works, really. I mean, I don't even know what to expect. I know things go in things. Outside of that, I have no idea.
Oh my god, your first time sounds terrible.
I'm going to tell you
You
about
want to tell us the
in
story?
1 minute, because I want to talk about something else first.
Okay.
When Jack decided to get naked.
Are we moving on?
Pose.
Okay.
Wait, we can talk about
No, I'm going back.
Okay, all right.
When he goes over to do the whole like layout, so she can draw, she can
we
redo
haven't
her photo.
we haven't set this up yet.
We haven't set this up yet.
I just want to talk about this monologue. Just this is how I'm leading into what I need to
Can we
say.
do the setup first?
No. Basically, there's a point in the episode where Jack goes on and on about like the first time he had sex, because he'd had sex before.
Once.
And he's talked about how like, I couldn't even write down the whole monologue. I was like, is he actually on drugs right now? Because he's like, it's like an expressionistic painting. It's
Oh,
like
yes.
the
I did
first
write
time
that
you
down.
see Van Gogh's
That he
Starry
was-
Night.
That he was comparing
movement,
his
and
first sexual
bodies.
experience with all these
Okay.
famous art.
This does require some setup, because what happens is, Joey's doing her art now. She's exploring her art, and she does a figure drawing class, and there's
Yes.
a new model, and she has some painting or some drawing that she did of the nude model, and Jack is like looking at it, and he's notoriously like kind of a klutz, and he spills something all over it and ruins
Her
her
chocolate
drawing.
milk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's when I wrote, I hate Joey. She's a bitch. She's pissed at someone for an accident. She was mad at him for
Well,
ruining
he did-
her.
Well, it was like a final project.
It's an
Yeah.
accident. She's an
I know,
asshole.
but
I
now
hate
how
Joey.
is she gonna redraw a naked guy? So then Jack is like, well, I'll pose for you naked. Of course, that's not going to be a disaster. So after some back and forth, he agrees to do it, and he's
And
posing-
she kind of relents. She's like, okay, fine.
yeah, and then there's some awkwardness at first, and then they settle into it. They get comfortable. He's naked, she's not. She's drawing. She does the whole drawing, and then they start talking about sex because he's naked. And then he launches into this monologue where he compares sex to all of these like fine art paintings.
All the
Movements
most
and
famous
bodies
fine art paintings.
and
But
expression.
what gets him into trouble and what leads to the awkwardness at the end of this is that comparing sex to these fine art paintings and talking to her about it gives him a boner.
hard on.
Gives him a boner, and she like freaks out.
She sees it.
Yeah, she was like, "What?
Must have been-
How dare you get naked in front of me and
And then get a hard on.
yeah."
I feel like a lot of girls probably dealt with that at some point growing up. Like a dude gets naked with a heart on and they're like, oh my god! Like I wasn't planning on this. Although she did set herself up for the whole scenario. But the point of what I'm saying, maybe at some point in your adulthood, you've had fantastic sex with someone that you trust and that you love and you care for. You've done it enough to know like what your needs are. They know what they need, whatever. It is actually whatever garbage that he was gurgling out of
Spewing.
his. It didn't even make sense, really. But I was like, the first time I had sex, it was with someone I love. We were both virgins. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. It was in a college dorm room He couldn't even get it in, like it wouldn't even go in. I started crying because I thought I'd never get to have sex in my adult life. I was like, I guess I could just never have sex.
Like, were you thinking that you didn't work?
I thought I didn't work.
Like your
It was as
like
if
your vagina was like sealed shut.
he was putting a square puzzle piece
In a round hole.
Yeah, and I was like, I guess it's just I'm never gonna get to do this. And then we kept trying, and then it hurt really fucking bad, and I bled all over the dorm bathroom.
Ooh, he popped
And
your
I
cherry.
sat-
He
her-
popped
her
your
did.
cherry.
It was nothing like an expressionistic painting.
Well, maybe with that blood all over the
Yeah, that's
bathroom.
true. Maybe that's
bathroom
what he
floor.
So I guess it was kind of like seeing Van Gogh Starry Night for the first time. Different colors, though.
You're just seeing stars because you're in so much pain.
Yeah. It's like,
Oh my god. I do not want to describe my first time having sex. It was an after-school special.
Mine was nothing like either of that. It was pretty boring and lame.
Oh no.
And there was no pain or blood, so
Oh man.
there was no pain or blood?
no pain?
No.
Wow.
Well, my first, he had a really big dong, but I didn't know it was a big dong at the time because it was my first ever dong.
Yeah, how would you know?
Now,
no
I'm
hand,
like,
no handies before?
but I never, no.
But-
Nick was my first ever kiss, first ever bone, first ever peen grab. And now he's dead, rip.
But you did the bone before the peen grab?
Yeah, but I never felt
She's
any
like-
other
she's saying-
pain.
She's
to
like,
know.
yeah, she held,
Okay.
but she like there was something to compare it to. There was
Oh,
a
all right.
scale.
And then my next boyfriend after Nick, we dated for 4 years. My next boyfriend after him had like his penis, I swear to God, it was like the size of the top. Victoria has a bottle of wine. It was like the thickness of the top of a bottle of wine.
Oh, that's sad.
And I was like, fuck.
That's
now
sad.
I know what I had and lost. Now I understand. But, you know, I didn't get it at the time.
Well, so we kind of already talked about Dawson climbing into Jen's window and then making out, and then I'm blanking on names. There's so many names. Andy
And Pacey,
and Pacey. Wait, no, I want to go back to
Joey
and Jack. And so she finishes the drawing, right?
Yeah, they get through the whole thing. She does the drawing.
It's a weird pose.
Yeah, and it's all the
Well,
whole.
they
the whole-
compared it to Titanic
Yeah.
in that, famous draw me like one of your French girls scene.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of what he looks like.
Yeah, he's posed in a very
He's on a-
feminine way.
He's on a couch.
But he even
leg is
says
like-
that he's like, oh, this is just like the scene of Titanic, and then she's like, except I'm Jack, and you're Rose. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Role reversal, that's cool. Or he said something like that.
Well, so he gets dressed. She finishes the drawing. He gets dressed. And they continue to talk about
What happened?
what happened between them just now. And the next thing, they start making out. And they end up on the couch making out. Mm-hmm. And we don't know where that ends
in their
up.
plaid shirts.
They're both
They're oversized.
plaid shirts.
Well, it is the 90s.
Yeah.
Does Joey live with her parents?
Her mom's dead, and her dad's in prison. So she lives with her older sister.
And
Oh, 'cause I
sister's
was like-
boyfriend and sisters and their baby.
Yeah.
So they're cool with like a dude coming over. I was like, he's just gonna come over and get like naked to pose in the living room.
Yeah, we don't know where the sister and sister's boyfriend and sister's boyfriend baby.
Yeah,
are.
they don't. They're
They're just not home.
Yeah,
Conveniently, they're not
just
home that
not
night.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Could you imagine? I mean, they'd be like, what
Yeah,
the
me as a
fuck?
teenager, there's no way I could have like some dude over to pose naked while I draw.
Even a dude
Yeah.
over, I think in general, you'd be monitored probably, or like other kids would have to come over too.
I mean, I just never had boys over at my house. I
either.
consciously decided not to have boys over at my house.
Oh, they didn't like me, so they weren't.
I mean, I
knocking my
think I
door
had
down.
boys that liked me, and but even boys who were strictly just my friends in high school, I'm like, no, I don't want you coming over. I don't want to deal with how my parents are going to be, or if my brothers are there and how they're going to react to a boy being over at the house. I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it.
My mom probably would have been one of those cool moms. She would have been like, "Come on, honey, pull your dick out," something like that.
Oh my God.
And I would have been like, "Mom."
Oh my God.
I kind of see that from your mom. She'd be like, "Cindy, it's about time."
Yeah, she was like, "Finally."
I think I had, when I was like, I must have been like 18 or 19, when I had a boyfriend over. I think my dad was there. I don't remember. I just remember, like, he came over and we fell asleep on top of the covers, fully clothed in my room, probably because we were high. Definitely because we were high. And then my dad coming home and finding that. And I'm like, my dad found me in bed with a man, but fully clothed, passed out on top of the covers. And all he had to say the next day was like, "Oh, next time he comes over, he should, like, sleep in the guest room." And I was like, okay.
I mean, even though you were fully clothed, I feel like I would have had more of a reaction than that as a parent. I would have woken you up in the moment.
I mean, he didn't. My dad didn't do anything about it. I think he just saw us. But also, we were, like, passed out cold, fully clothed on top of the covers. I don't remember.
I also sometimes think that parents aren't quite sure how to react to those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
like
For
they
sure.
like they themselves are also scared and nervous.
Mm-hmm.
That was the impression I got from my dad. Like, he did not want to talk about it, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear about it. But, like, he was like, "I gotta say something." Also, it was like 19,
I
so
was gonna say you're already kind of
yeah,
an
but
adult,
also
but
like,
you're under his house.
yeah,
you're
I'm
under
still
his
like
roof.
living at home. Like, he doesn't want me to, like, whatever in his house. But so he was just like,
There's a window.
next time your boyfriend stays over, just, you know, sleep. Have him
in the
him in the guest room, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
There's like a window when, like, your dad would have had that same reaction if you were like 13 and under, but the window from like 13 to like 16, I feel like maybe he would have reacted differently.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yes,
A
if I
19-year-old.
was,
And that's
like, if I was,
probably
like,
exactly
15 or
it too.
16,
Right, yeah.
But I was also like 19, so
he's
like,
kind of like,
he's
ah,
like,
she's an adult, but
he's
she's
like,
in my house.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
But also, like, it was totally innocent.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
So he was trying to be, like, cool about it, and I was like, whatever.
I mean,
I was like embarrassed.
Where's
I
this
was
boy now?
Probably still in Roanoke, Virginia, or he's in Peru doing ayahuasca. I don't know, because he's some crazy hippie.
That's cool.
He had penis piercings.
Ew.
What?
2 of them.
Where? Where? By the hole? Where do people pierce their... Where do you pierce your dong?
Wasn't there the famous Prince Albert piercing?
Yes, he had
Isn't
a
that what
Prince
it's
Albert
called?
and he had an Ampeline. So
What are these words that we're using? What do they mean?
So Prince Albert is a ring, ring that goes through the hole and then out the side of the head.
What? He had that?
Yeah, and then an Ampeline is a barbell that goes through the side of the head.
What? Oh, I think I might have seen one of those before.
How do you have sex with those, though? Don't they, like,
Is
tear
that
and take them?
pleasurable?
So,
Not for you. How does the dude have sex with those in?
I mean, they just stayed in, and according to him, I guess like most genital piercings, they heighten sensation. So he basically said, like, without them,
Sex sucked.
yeah, like it's spoiled sex for him because it made it so good.
Did your dad know that he had penis piercings? If your dad knew he had penis piercings, he for sure would have acted differently.
My dad did not know that.
Dad, if you're listening, guess
Remember that boy?
Definitely can't send this to my parents now.
Oh man. All right, so then we have Pacey and Andy, and kind of like we discussed earlier, Andy is describing her perfect night. They're being very open about their sexuality and their sexual lives together, talking about the first time and if they're ready and getting HIV tests. prior
For no actual
prior
reason.
to
Well,
it.
yes, but they are being the most like mature,
Responsible.
Yeah, they're being the most mature about it.
Yeah.
They're like having a discussion about what it would look like, which is what you should do instead
Yeah.
of just like getting high or drunk and doing it and having it be horrible.
Yeah.
And then falling asleep in your bed fully clothed over the covers and having your dad find you.
I don't even think we had sex that night. We were probably high or on mushrooms. We were on something, because why else would I fall asleep fully clothed on top of my cover? And I wasn't drinking. I don't think I was drinking at the time. I didn't start drinking until well after I was 21, so I was definitely on drugs.
Much better.
So, Andy outlines this perfect evening of how she would want her first night to go, and Pacey makes it happen. Also, was curious about the logistics of all this, because I was like, where does he
How
have
they
the
rent?
money?
Also, aren't you not allowed to rent a B&B
so that,
unless
yeah,
you're
so
like
that did
over a
occur to
certain
me.
age?
Like, Andy wants to go to a French restaurant, and she wants to walk by the French Riviera, like whatever bullshit she said, and then stay in an Airbnb. Like, she had all
Not
these
an
Airbnb.
Airbnb,
I'm
just
a
a
sorry,
B&B.
B&B.
I'm sorry, just there was no Airbnb. She just would stay in a B&B, a bed and breakfast, because that's romantic somehow. Even though I equate bed and breakfast with like old
Activities,
people. Yeah.
like
Old
required activities.
Yeah, like you wake up in the morning and you have eggs and then you go for a hike or something. It's not like a sex vacation, but whatever. But yeah, she has this whole idea, and then like Pacey, like
Makes it happen.
he takes her out to dinner. Apparently, there's a nice French restaurant in Cape
In
Side,
Cape Side.
and then blindfolds her and walks.
Leads her into
Yeah, and then
a hotel room.
and then she's like, if we're in a B&B, I'm going to be really pissed off. And then she takes off her blindfold and they're in a B&B. And I'm like, you're
She's saying
16.
Airbnb.
I'm sorry. It just, he's 16. How did he, like...
Don't you need credit cards to...
Yeah, or just to be...
Even back then, you still needed a credit card to book a thing.
Yeah, and...
Maybe not. I mean, it's the local B&B.
But
you
even
know?
then, like, a 16-year-old's like, I'm going to book a hotel room. And they're like...
I don't know.
To bone?
My friends and I
Yeah.
were in high school. My friends and I were booking hotel rooms right and left without any parental.
Booking hotel rooms right and left.
Yes, because that's where we used to have our parties.
I remember spring break was the only hotel situation that I can recall when I was still in high school.
I mean, I definitely went to concerts in North Carolina when I was living in Virginia as a late teenager, 17 to 19.
So let's say
I went to North Carolina for concerts, and we would spend the night and come back, and I would book hotel rooms. How did I do it?
So let's just say
and
you
this
were.
is 1995.
All right, this is very simple, you guys. You called the main headquarter numbers for Hilton hotels, and you would say, I need to book a room.
I wasn't calling any Hilton
in-
hotels.
I mean, whatever hotel. I'm just using Hilton as an example.
How'd you find
Everyone-
the Hilton headquarter number? The phone book? My mind is blown.
My mind
It's
is
genuinely
blown, too,
blown.
and I did it. I remember, I in my mind, there's pictures.
Can you imagine if we took all cell phones and the internet away from
I would be able to
teens
do it
now?
now. That's my point. I mean, maybe that's what we did. Maybe we just showed up down there and we drove around until we find a hotel, and then we just stayed there. And I was on blind faith, like you can do that.
You called 1-800 Red Roof Inn, and you'd be like, I need the Red Roof Inn in blah, 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 North Carolina.
Can we try 1-800 Red Roof Inn right now? Oh, wait. 1-800 Red Roof would actually be a phone number.
There you go. See?
Cindy's gonna call.
Put it
We're all
on
talking about it.
speaker.
I am.
Put it on speaker.
1-800
REDROOF. All right. Turn it up. Let's see what happens.
Thank you for calling the Red Roof.
So Melissa would be the only one in the group who would know how to exist without the internet.
So glad that worked. All right.
Okay,
And there we have it.
so you guess a phone number and you dial it.
Everyone, all of the major corporations and companies have 1-800 numbers, so there you go.
When we're all living like in anarchy and the internet stops working.
1-800
Find
everything.
1-800 guess your phone number.
Yeah. Can't believe that worked. I can't believe that worked.
Okay,
Oh
so,
my gosh. Well,
so Pacey and Andy, the point of all of this tangent was that Pacey and Andy end up in a B&B and to spend the night, and Andy's like, oh, she doesn't say this, but she's like, oh, you're manipulating me into having sex with you. And he's like, nope, my end game is not to have sex. I just wanted to give you your, like, perfect night.
I feel like they both have a back and forth. Like, obviously Pacey wants to have sex because he's a 16, 15-year-old boy.
She does too.
She does too.
Scared.
And they both say yes and then no and then yes and then no and then
Yes.
yes. And then I left that situation thinking that they didn't have sex. They
me
ultimately
too.
decided that it wasn't the right time.
Well, they left early. They didn't
and they
even
left.
spend the night.
They didn't even spend the night. They left the hotel, the B&B, and he dropped her home.
Right. So that's what we're supposed to think.
That's what we're
Because-
supposed to think.
So at the end of this episode, there's a semi-sexual encounter between all three of these couples, but we ultimately don't know
What actually happened.
what actually happens. There's
Although
just
I never-
implications left and right.
Although I never believed that Jack and Joey were gonna have sex, and I also never believed that Dawson and Jen were gonna have sex either.
I thought they were.
No.
Just because she's...
But Dawson is too much of a pussy.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. So this leads us into episode 11.
Oh, can I say one more thing about this episode 10?
Yeah.
A quick. Pacey runs into Andy
Ooh, this
at
got
the
me.
goddamn drugstore.
This got me.
And she's purchasing something from behind the
She's
counter.
picking up her prescription.
And it's in a bag.
No,
And
but she's at the pharmacy counter. You know that she's at the pharmacy counter picking
Yeah.
up some drugs.
But they're like in a bag, in
Yeah.
a paper bag, and he comes up and he runs into her or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, what are you getting? It's a drug bag. You shouldn't be grabbing at
That-
someone's
that
drug
is an
bag." And he pulls it
invasion of
out of the bag
privacy.
and reads what the fucking prescription
That's
is.
an invasion of privacy. They got me so upset. I'm like, Pacey, no, you're supposed to be the good guy.
That's the same as rummaging through someone's medicine cabinet to see what drugs they're taking at the moment.
Going through all the little zipper pockets in your purse. Like, no,
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
out of
it's
my bag.
rude.
Yeah.
He acted like she had a plastic bag full of snacks, and he's like, "Ooh, what you get?" And he was like,
Doritos?
"Doritos
You got
and Cheetos." He's like, "Ooh, Xanax."
Isn't that for depression and anxiety? She's like, it's for my
Rude.
mom. We have the same name.
That is rude.
I was appalled. That's all I have to say about that.
All right.
No, because what if it was like birth control or...
I mean, I guess that's still maybe to show us that Pacey is still a dumb, ignorant, rude teenager. Because his character doesn't do that stuff.
No, I think they're just trying to, like, it was weird and awkward. I think maybe they're just trying to set up because she is hiding something.
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
And then she's like, oh, this is my mom's medicine, but it's her medicine.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this is going, but, like, she's a teenager on antidepressants, which is not that crazy. But there is, like, a stigma. I mean, maybe now.
Especially then.
Yes.
I feel like
Now,
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Everybody's on some sort of
on
antidepressant.
some kind of head meds. It's fine.
Yeah.
I talk about it with my friends all the time. Like, who's on Lexapro? Show of hands. But at the time, and yeah, in the 90s, and when you were like 15, if you were like taking medication for your mental problems, then it was like a huge deal.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of strange that they're talking about mental health even way back then.
mental health.
Mental health.
Benzo.
Menzies health?
I mean, he might as well like reached into her bag and pulled out her box of Super Plus tampons.
Yeah, I know.
I'd be like, who's these for? It's not me. I don't have a giant vagina.
I'm a virgin. I don't need these.
I don't need a Super Plus.
All right. Episode 11. It's called Sex, She Wrote. I guess that's a play on Murder, She Wrote.
Definitely play on Murder, She Wrote.
So
Abby.
the whole episode, well, I would say the opening it starts in class, right? We're in class.
Yeah, they're in
With the
English class.
with the
and-
rude English literature teacher who's a total jerk off teacher.
Yeah, all English teachers are, though.
I remember my high school English teacher being a total bitch.
Yeah, I had one too that was also like, she definitely favored the like popular cheerleader types, even though I was just as intelligent and sat in the back of the class with like the two other alternatines in the class, and she just like fucking hated us. It didn't matter what we did; it wasn't good enough. But the cheerleader who sat 2 seats up, who brushed her hair and rebrushed her hair and put it up in a ponytail and then took it down and brushed it again and then put it back up in a ponytail and then took it down and brushed it again.
Wow.
She was amazing at school.
She was amazing at
But
the school.
the three of us that sat in the back of the class and maybe occasionally questioned some things. We were horrible.
I guess
People
You
who
guys just made her life difficult.
Yeah, we were horrible people who would amount
Well,
to
y'all-
like
y'all
drug
weren't-
addicts and homeless people.
yeah, she was stereotyping you guys.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I work in advertising, and the other one is a
Married with 5 kids.
well, one of them ended up as a famous drummer for a famous band, and I don't know what happened to the other
Are you talking about the popular kids or your friends?
Her crew.
one. My friends.
No, that's what I meant. I thought you were
Yeah,
talking
no,
about the...
no, the popular kids end up married with 5 kids and
Oh, yeah.
divorced now and still living in the same city that we
Right.
always lived on.
Yeah, yeah,
The three of us went off to do great things.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole episode kind of feels like a buffer episode. Like we've talked about that before, so there's no like. Well, this one does bring up some real drama between the group, between the kids.
But this episode is entirely a reaction to the episode before.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yes.
nothing new happens.
Nothing new
really.
happens. It's 100%
Follow-up.
like episode 10 was a setup, and episode 11 is
the follow-up, the finisher.
Yes.
Yeah. But this kind of reminded me of 16 Candles a little bit when, because Chris finds a handwritten note on the floor and he picks it up and he reads it.
this is
And
Chris Wolf.
Chris Wolf, the jerk, slut,
Who
jock
always wears
guy.
that fucking necklace.
It's
really
so
tight
it's really
necklace.
weird because Chris Wolf and Abby are like a pair, but they're not.
They don't really like each other.
They don't- and
Or
they're not-
Abby doesn't like
yeah,
Chris
and they're
for
not
sure.
banging. They're not boyfriend and girlfriend, but they're always hanging out. He's trying to bang her. She's not interested. But they were like running mates in the
Class elections.
Yeah.
or
So
school
wasn't he kind of
elections.
disgusted with her?
He was.
that
Yeah, but
yeah,
they're
a little
like,
bit.
but it's the dynamic is a little weird because I have a hard time believing that they're friends. I mean,
Yeah.
I do believe that they're friends because they're both horrible people, but also like I would think that they would have bound by now. Like, because they're just like, so they lack integrity. So like, what's holding them back?
Yeah.
But
So Chris finds this note on the floor, which reminded me of 16 Candles because what's the guy's name in 16 Candles?
I don't know.
I'm gonna make a confession. I've never seen 16 Candles.
Neither have I.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
Everyone
really?
has.
I was like, I've seen it. Jake Ryan, that was the stud guy in 16 Candles. He finds a note on the floor and he spends the whole entire movie figuring out who wrote this note because the note is about him. And he is trying to find out who is the chick who wants to get with him, you know. And it ends up being the dorky Molly Ringwald character. And then, like any other good teen rom-com, they end up together at the end of the movie. Sorry, ladies, if you were...
God damn it!
If y'all were going to watch it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And so that's really the only part that it reminds me of is because the note is not about Chris. It's about someone else. Because the note is about, I want to talk about what happened last night, you know.
Yeah, sex
I thought
changes everything.
But the note didn't explicitly say sex. It just said, I want to talk about what happened last night.
No, it
I
did.
thought it did
Oh,
say
it did?
sex
No,
changes
yeah, it
everything.
said, yeah, it said,
Oh,
we should
oh.
talk about what happened last night. Like, sex changes
Oh, but
everything.
not-
But it
but
couldn't
not-
mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that
That
the
whoever
person who wrote it, that they
had
banged,
sex.
but
Right,
if they
okay.
do, it could change everything.
There you go. Yes. That's where I kind of
So-
was remembering that it didn't
So
mention
they're
sex.
like all the major players, including Abby and Chris Wolf, are in this English class together, and Dawson gives some great presentation, and of course Abby hasn't done jack shit for her presentation. So then Chris finds this note, and she's like, "Oh, this is going to be my presentation."
because
like,
this assignment that they're given is to discuss a mystery or present a mystery.
yeah,
Like the genre is mystery.
So rather than reading a mystery novel and presenting on that, she's gonna like solve the mystery of like who banged.
who wrote
last
this
night.
note?
Yeah, who wrote this note? Who banged?
And
last
I
night?
wrote down, how is this project going to work out for her in terms of the grade?
I didn't
It's
understand
not.
it either. I was like, this
It's not
doesn't.
because when you go to your teacher and you're like, "Hey, I solved this mystery. I found a note on the floor.
It was about sex.
Two people in this classroom banged last night, and I was gonna figure out who it was, and the teacher was gonna be like, "The fuck."
And that
A plus.
and that particular teacher would have been like, what the fuck?
yeah, no, this particular teacher already hates Abby.
Yeah.
But she really thought this was an option.
No,
She had the video. She had the
because-
camcorder
because
out. when
she's
she was
so basically
recording
what
because
it.
she's a horrible person. And she's
Basically,
stupid.
what she did is what she did in the, oh my god, in the Breakfast Club episode, and I'm just mentioning 16 Candles. It's like they're ripping from John Hughes all over again.
Maybe that's intentional.
Yeah, maybe. It was very lightly. This one, I mean, the Breakfast Club episode was very obvious.
Yeah, no, they even said it.
They even did. They even called it
they
out, and that was in
even said-
season 1.
They did a whole Breakfast Club ripoff.
What did you call it? An homage.
Yes,
well, not a
it
ripoff.
was an homage.
But the only way that this is anything, and maybe I'm the only one who picked up on a 16 Candles reference, was finding a strange note on the floor, and figuring out who wrote the note. And so Abby, just like she did in the Breakfast Club episode, is just causing trouble. She's causing drama throughout the group. She's trying to like pit people against each other.
She's manipulative.
Yeah.
That's her MO.
What also like surprises me is how these characters are falling for it. Like they're still believing her. They're still falling for what she's saying.
I wrote down that I think Abby is good. Like, you have to actually be smart to manipulate people in a way to where they all fall for it and they start, like, caving. She's getting people to say whatever their truth is
Yes, but
without knowing it.
yeah, but I think this is the thing that bothers me is because every interaction she had with these people, and they were like, especially Andy, and maybe Andy wasn't subjected to her in season 1, but I'm like, guys, like every time I'm like, guys, you know who
what
this,
she's like.
you know who this is, you know what you're dealing with.
Don't
here.
engage.
Like,
Why is anyone
yeah, like-
continuing to
Like,
engage?
don't listen to what she says. Like, whatever's coming out of her
And
mouth
maybe-
is manipulative garbage. Like, why are you letting this seep in?
And maybe this is us as adults watching this. I don't remember this episode again, but maybe as a teenager when I was watching this, I was also blind to her manipulation and whatever she was stirring up between, I was just as like oblivious to it as the characters were.
I mean, she goes around and she tries to, like...
She starts off doing it very slyly. Like, she's not as bold in what
No.
she's telling, certain characters about, to get them to open up or spill whatever. But towards the end of the show, at end of the episode, she just starts like...
Yeah, she just starts
And she starts
spreading-
making stuff
Yeah,
up.
she just starts spreading rumors. So at first she tries to, like, imply this and that and see what people will say. Be like, oh, so I heard this or heard that.
But she's just poking, and then whatever
Yeah.
spot is sensitive.
But then...
Well, then almost kind of like what she started, what her motives were, or what her mission was in the beginning wasn't working. So she just poked harder, and then started, like I said, making stuff up.
Yeah, so then she started saying, like, oh, I heard, like, she went to Andy and she's like, oh, I heard you guys bang last night. Like, Pacey is telling everybody that you banged last night and that you weren't any good.
Yeah.
And Andy is, like, all butthurt about this. And I'm like, Andy, come on.
But like you said, Andy
Dude's your
wasn't.
boyfriend. Do you really think that that's what he would do?
But Andy wasn't subjected to
Right.
Abby. This is like her
Um,
first time seeing the manipulative. Abby.
Yeah, so she starts, like, planting all these seeds and spreading all these rumors. And meanwhile, people are talking a little bit because also Dawson has, since his whatever, we don't know, sexual encounter with Jen, he's rewritten his script to include sex. So now all of a sudden, and Andy and Chris are the characters. So they reread this and they're like, oh, now we're having sex. And somebody actually had sex, so it was Dawson and Jen.
It leads Abby to believe that it's Dawson and Jen.
But then she goes through the whole thing. So then she leaves these like cryptic invitations for all.
Oh wait, but she finds one more thing: the naked drawing of Jack that Joey did.
How did she find how did she find that?
Because she upset Joey, and Joey ran out of the room and accidentally
and
left
her
her
portfolio.
her project behind.
Yeah, okay.
And I wrote in response to this that I was really hoping that we wouldn't have to look at this naked drawing of Jack anymore. Like, I was hoping it would die in the last episode. I have seen this drawing. They showed this fucking drawing. It wasn't even that good of a drawing. It looked like a weird cartoon blob.
No, it was a high schooler drawing a naked person.
In that weird pose that he was doing, and we saw it once again.
And
Like, we remember what it looked like.
You know what I was upset about was that she took her drawing and then folded it in half, and then she gave it to Dawson, who folded it in half again. And I'm like, and when she finally got it back, she was like upset that the drawing got passed around and that people were inferring that they had sex, but she was not upset that somebody had taken her final project
and folded it 4 times.
Folded it 4 times. This is the second time that her fucking project has gotten ruined. I'd be so mad. I'd be like, how did you get this and why did you fold it? I spent a lot of time on this drawing and you were just like, pocket.
So Abby sends them the invitations, and they all end up in the classroom together.
Oh yeah.
And this is where she thinks that she's gonna solve the mystery.
This whole thing is weird because she leaves them these like cryptic like envelopes that are like sealed with like
their names printed on the front.
Yeah, with like sealed with like gold stickers. And like,
why were they all still at school at 7:30?
And yes,
the summons was for 7:30.
It was pouring rain, and they're like, everybody meet in like Mr. So-and-so's class at 7:30 p.m. And I remember thinking this. I was like, if I was in high school and I was like, hey, it's 7:30 on a Wednesday, I have to go back to school. My parents would be like, what the fuck?
But none of them went home. They were all still there.
Yeah.
They must have gone home and come back to school. But they were all like, yeah, sure. I will go home, have dinner with my family, and then I will drive back to school because somebody left me a note.
Well, wait, maybe that's why
You can't even get... My school was locked after 5 p.m.
Maybe that's why they inserted that little bitty thing about the literature teacher saying that the book fair was required attendance. So maybe the book fair was happening after school.
But not till 7 p.m.
I mean,
School's
I don't know.
done at 4. You're going to spend 5 hours looking at books.
I'm just saying, like, maybe they thought that
I wasn't.
the teenagers watching it at the time would believe that.
And it was like pouring down rain. They must have come in from outside because Andy was like soaking wet. Like she had gone home and then come back.
She was definitely outside.
Yeah, she was like wet and like pissed. And she was like, somebody left me an envelope. So I'm going to go back to school. I wouldn't have. I'd be like, I'm not going back to school. What is this?
So it all comes to a head with Dawson and Joey bickering about whether or not they had sex. And neither of them wants to answer the question. And so they're just like getting louder and louder and louder. And then at the same time, they both exclaim, "Yes, I had sex!"
Meanwhile, Abby is guiding this whole conversation, and Chris Wolf is
filming.
He brought the camcorder.
He's got his like
it's for
shoulder-mounted VHS camcorder, and he's like filming the whole thing, and
they're okay with it.
Yeah, and they're Joey's like, I'm leaving, and then Abby's like, don't you want to know who wrote the note? And Joey's like, okay, I guess I'll stay. I would have been like, I don't give a fuck who wrote what note. What are we talking about here? Why am I at school at 7:30?
Yeah,
I should be at home
doing my homework
and watching television and going to bed. Like, what is this? It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird.
Not very believable.
No, it was,
honestly,
I didn't believe any of it. Like they show up, they all like the split second before Abby walks to the door, they all figure out, they're like, oh, I know who's behind this. And then she walks to the door, she's like, well, everybody's here, everybody found my invitation. And Chris is behind her with the camcorder, filming everything. And they're just like, okay. And then she's like, okay, I found a note, who had sex last night? And they were all like, okay, I guess we're doing this while it's being filmed. I would have walked out. I would have been like,
I for sure would have walked out.
slapped Abby, and I would have walked out.
But so we learned that it was Pacey and Andy who had sex.
Mm-hmm.
And
This
so
little twist.
And so
Twistaroo.
Pacey, whatever he wrote in the note was saying, like, I don't think we should.
I don't think we should have sex again for a while.
For a while.
Like sex
Right.
changes
like
everything.
basically,
We should wait until it happens
he regretted
again.
having sex with her. And,
But the reason...
Andy's initial reason is that because it was bad.
Yeah,
Because he
so
doesn't
she's
really
all
want
upset.
her. Right. She's all upset. And
But then he runs out to the car.
turns
She's
out...
in the car the next day or something. I can't remember what it was. When?
I think it was the
She's
same
in the
day.
car.
Wasn't it the same
No.
day?
Well, it looked
It
like
was
daylight
was it?
outside,
Yeah, it
which
was the
confuses
next
things
day.
even
Okay.
more.
All right.
Like she was upset and she was like, oh, you don't want me, and he doesn't have anything to say about it because granted, he should have said something in that moment, but he didn't because they were being filmed.
And because everyone was in the room.
I
like,
wouldn't have said anything either.
it
I'd be
would've-
like, this is something
a
for us to
private
discuss in
conversation. Right.
And he was just, he was acting all weird the next day. He was being like,
distant.
yeah. And she was like, you're acting like a typical guy who gets distant every time there's some sort of like, I can't remember how she put it, like emotional.
Every time like the relationship
Progresses.
levels up, then you
You
like
pull away.
Yeah.
Typical man. And then it's raining again. Was it raining again?
It rained.
It rained the whole
the whole episode.
He runs out to the car behind her and he confesses the real reason why he was being distant, which still doesn't make any fucking goddamn sense
Not
to
one
me.
bit.
And I've heard similar lines from men before, and it doesn't make sense then, and it didn't make sense.
Well,
in
he
this
said he
fucking
was
show.
scared.
Because
You gotta know.
I'm scared because you're the most important being to ever grace my existence, is what he wrote, and I wrote swoon next to it.
Well, he's scared because now he's found the best thing in his life,
And it's
he
helping him be a
doesn't-
better person
and he
and like
doesn't-
try
and he
do
doesn't
well.
and I think he admitted he's afraid of screwing up, and he doesn't want to lose her, because he's known for screwing up. That's what he's been trained to think, that he's a screw up, that his life is not going to amount to anything, and that he's just going to be a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And so why would someone like Andy want to be with him? Because he's a nobody, and he's probably going to screw this up. And so that makes him scared. And he's afraid that if they continue, in their relationship and continue having sex, that he's going to screw it up.
This still makes no goddamn sense to
It
me.
doesn't make sense?
Yeah, because he was all freaked out. The thing that triggered his freak out was not that they had sex, but that he got an A on a quiz or something. And he was like, I've never
gotten an A.
Yeah, and like she's been helping him like study and like whatever and like get his shit together and just get like his head organized so that he can be a better human, and it like freaks him out. And then they bang, and then he's just like overload. He's like, I can't with you. I'm like, yeah, Pacey, you're 16, 17.
I don't know. I guess I bought it.
Time to get your shit together.
I
You got a
didn't get-
girlfriend, you got an A on a test, you're having sex. Not for the first time, because the last time you had sex was with a 40-year-old woman, so...
I mean,
Just wrap your head around it.
Pacey's life is pretty good.
Besides his asshole dad, which
Oh,
we'll get
that's
to
in
in the next episode.
Next episode.
Yeah.
So
That's
one
the-
more
That's
thing.
the only note I have for that episode.
His dad's such a dick.
His dad's a dick.
What I do remember about this episode. So, the very end of this episode, we see Dawson and Joey again at the entrance of their school, and it's pouring down rain.
Still.
And they're like, God, Dawson's like, oh, it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon. What should we do? And he's like, should we make a break for it? And Joey's like, no, I think we should walk. I do remember that in high school. I remember that scene. I don't remember anything about this episode, but I remember that scene. I feel like that
It
scene...
struck a chord.
I feel like that scene of them walking back home in the rain was probably used and all sorts of promotions for the show, you know, because it was a moment where we see Dawson and Joey being like the old Dawson and Joey. They're friends, they're besties or whatever. And so I do remember that scene, and Joey giving Dawson like the look. She's like looking up at him.
I
like,
hate
oh my
Joey, and I have that written on every single episode, and I have different reasons why. I wrote, for the last episode, I wrote, I hate Joey.
But
for
why?
Season 2, for episode 10, I hate Joey because, she was so pissed off at Jack for, like,
Oh, the accident.
He's got chocolate milk, and he accidentally spilled his fucking chocolate milk on
His
your
Yoo-hoo.
stupid... His Yoo-hoo. For episode 11, I have Joey is an asshole.
Whoa.
This is what she said. So they're talking about why they never had sex. Joey and Dawson in the hallway, right towards the end of the episode. Why it never got there, why they never tried it. Joey said, because it's not about the perfect setting or the perfect timing. It's about the perfect person. What a rude bitch. She basically said to his face,
You're not the perfect person.
you are not good enough for me to have had sex with.
Wait, she said that to Dawson or to
To
Dawson. I remember that too.
Talking about why they'd never gotten to that point.
Oh.
What a fucking cunt.
Ooh.
That is so rude. I would never say that to someone. Just say the opposite of that. It wasn't the right time or place. Don't be an asshole. Fucking bitch. I wouldn't even want to be her friend. I wouldn't even hold her under my jacket
This is one
in the rain.
thing that we mentioned a lot is that these teenagers, the dialogue that they're given and that they use are things that no real teenagers would ever say to each other.
Or adult.
They're
That was
way
written
too.
by adults.
They're
Would
way
any
too.
adult say that to another person?
Adults
I mean,
might.
not adults now, I don't think. But they call that out a little bit because when Dawson
Oh,
has
they
his,
do. Yeah.
when Dawson has his like screenplay.
This was at the beginning of the episode 10, right?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
they're rehearsing their lines, I think even Pacey is like, do kids
Do-
even? Yeah, because
Yeah.
the lines that all of the kids are reading in order to audition for his screenplay are like so convoluted and complex. And when at the very beginning, when they're doing that awkward rehearsal where Pacey's playing the girl, and they lean in for the kiss, that's not actually a kiss, and then Pacey's like. He basically says, like, what the fuck, man? Like, do kids even talk like this? Like, what is this philosophical bullshit that you're writing?
Yeah.
Like,
Kids don't talk like that.
But they call it out a little bit. But
But I don't think this was supposed to be an example of that. This was supposed to be something where, like,
I'm just
we were
talking-
really siding. You're supposed to be siding with Joey in this when she said it. I think
I'm just
it's how
talking,
the writers.
I'm
wanted
just
it to
talking
be.
about the brutal honesty. Like kids were not. You're not that brutally honest with your 15-year-old friend.
no.
You know.
I feel like adults aren't that brutally honest.
No one would say this to another person. It's
You're
not
just
about
like-
the perfect setting or the perfect timing.
But you
It's
do. But you are more upfront and honest and forward with your adult friends than you were
But I
with your
wouldn't be
teenage
like, I didn't have
friends.
sex with you because you're not it. I'd never bluntly say that to someone. It's fucking rude.
I mean, unless you hate that person.
Unless you hate them, but they're supposed
Yeah,
to
and
be
they're
like
like, I
friends.
would never fucking bang you because you're horrible.
Well, you don't say it like that.
That's how this comes across. And then they went outside and they're like, do you miss me? Because I have to be honest, I missed you. And she's like, yeah, I missed you too. And I was like, what the fuck do they miss about one another? What are they
Their
missing?
friendship. They've been friends since they were kids.
Well, I wouldn't be friends after someone said this shit to me. We would not be friends anymore. If they told me the reason I didn't have sex with you is because you ain't it.
I will say this: if adults are saying this to each other now, if there's one adult saying this to another adult right now, yes, the result of that conversation is that those two people are walking away from each other. They're not friends. They're not anything to each other anymore.
They don't have kids together either.
Right.
They're
yeah.
not planning on seeing each other ever again.
You know, if I.
So split custody.
Yes, but
It really got me. I mean, I've been upset about this for days.
so that was So that was kind of like a two-parter type thing. Episodes
Yeah.
10 and 11, and then episode 12 is kind of a whole new
Then we
new episode. We start
start
over with a whole new drama.
These 2 episodes take place over the course of
2 days.
3 days, and now we're on the weekend. So everything we've talked about now we're on like Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
After that, right?
Yeah, because
Presumably.
there are outings. There's a dad outing with the boys,
And it's a weekend long thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess the reason I say that is because Abby is back in the play again, and I'm like, guys, do you remember what happened yesterday?
not just back in the play, but invited to this like
Yeah, she's invited to a thing, and I'm
girls'
like,
thing.
why are you still hanging out? So now we're on the weekend.
I actually had the exact same thought as I was
Yeah.
watching it. Why do you keep inviting this asshole around?
I know it's a plot device. It's a plot device because she brings a certain level of drama and she mixes things up and she moves the narrative along.
Also, I feel like for shows and movies in general, there has to be a character that you hate.
Yeah, because otherwise, it's
Generally
boring.
speaking,
There's a
clearly,
bad guy.
right?
There's
A
always,
bad,
like,
Yeah.
right? The bad guy,
an antagonist.
right? I mean, we all know how Cindy feels about Joey, and we all know
I have
how
some shit about her
Victoria
on this
feels
page,
about Jen.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, those 2 characters are not necessarily the bad guy. But they have issues.
Not in a traditional.
Right. Abby is the traditional bad guy.
Yeah, she's the villain. She's
Right.
the antagonist.
And so
here.
I think that's, to me, clearly why she's being continued to be written into the show. Is that there
But-
has to be a
But
clear-cut
the
bad guy.
The character motivation is unbelievable that they would continue to include her in stuff. Especially after what just happened. She manipulated all of them to come into a room together and confess their sexual
With
maybe
the
whatever.
camcorder.
maybe
With the
it wasn't
camcorder.
maybe it wasn't as explicit, but I mean this whole, at least for the ladies, because it's a ladies' night, and then it's the father-son outing or whatever. So for the ladies, I got the impression that Jen was desperate to find girls to gather together to be a part of this, and so she got desperate and asked Abby to do it.
So the setup for this is it's the weekend, it's Saturday, Sunday, and we've got 2 narratives. One is a guy's weekend, so we've got
It opens
Dos-
up with that too. It opens
Yeah.
up with us learning that the guys are going to go out on a fishing trip. It's
So
Yeah,
so it's-
Pacey's dad, Dawson's
Dad
dad.
and Dawson and Pacey. It's like father-son thing.
and
And Jack's there.
And
well,
Jack
at the last
shows up.
minute, Jack shows up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then meanwhile, so we've got them. So we're learning on that narrative. We're learning about Pacey's relationship with his father, which we've only heard about from Pacey. We've never actually seen before.
Oh, is bad.
I wrote down, this is the daddy issues episode.
Yeah.
As far as the men go in the show.
And so then the other narrative that's at play is that Gail, Dawson's mother, who is a
She's
journalist.
yeah.
She's a journalist. She's
TV journalist.
yeah.
TV reporter.
She's a reporter, journalist. I don't know what the difference is. Anyways, she wanted to
She's
do
touching on some juicy subjects with these teenage girls in her
Jen's
living room.
gotten a sudden interest
Gotten
in
chummy with
yeah,
Gail.
and she's gotten a sudden interest in journalism, so she's been producing Dawson's.
Well, I
movie
thought she
for
was
him.
interested in producing, and so she got chummy with Gail to get some producing experience.
Yeah, and so Gail's like, okay, why don't you get some girls together and we'll do like a whole spot on like issues that teenage girls are facing.
But that's how Jen presents it to Joey. Jen thinks
Mm-hmm.
that this is Gail's idea, that this was a story that Gail pitched to Jen, when in reality, it was Jen's idea.
Right.
Jen pitched this story to Gail, and Gail was like, this is a good idea. Good job.
It kind of could be a good idea if it weren't like in someone's living room.
Well, it was
Well, they were filmed.
It was probably
film equipment.
she did.
there.
It was probably supposed to be like a human interest piece, and not like a newsworthy
yeah, no,
you
like
know,
like a fluff spot.
fluff spot. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, where they like film and they edit it. It's not like
They
live
need some-
television.
they need
like,
something
film-
to fill in
but
the
I'm still
news
saying there
hour.
could have been a better location. It just all felt weird to me.
Yeah,
there was like
it-
a fire rolling. I didn't.
It was a little weird. But yeah, they're all together. So Jen approaches Joey and is like, "Oh, you know, we really need we're gonna interview girls about like the issues that are facing teenage girls, and we really need some like thoughtful and intelligent girls to come do this. And you're the most thoughtful and intelligent girl I know, so please come do it." And Joey's like, "Okay." So she shows up, and who's there? Andy and Abby.
And Jen.
And Jen, like they're all the whole fucking
gang
is there.
And Joey's like, "What the fuck, you bitch?"
Well
Atrocity.
then Gail kind of out. This is what I'm saying. Like Gail outs Jen by saying like, "Jen, this is such a great idea," because like I said, Jen led Joey to believe that it was Gail who approached Jen with this idea, when in reality, I don't know why that got Joey so pissed. Like, who gives a shit whose idea it was?
Joey's jealous now that Jen has taken is like more in Dawson's life and a part of his life and helping with the fucking film, and
calling
now
her
he's like
Gail.
being buddies with Gail, and so now another thing I wrote about Joey in this episode, and now she's a jealous asshole on top of everything.
I feel like I'm Switzerland here because I don't have strong feelings about any one female character. Cindy has.
I like Jen. I like
is-
Jen. She's fine to me.
Yeah, but to Cindy, Joey is the devil, and the same for Victoria.
I mean, I don't think
with
Jen. I don't think Jen's a devil, but I don't think she's great.
I think she's trying her best to be a different human.
They're softening her up.
Yeah,
for
they are
sure.
softening her up.
Yeah, now we're supposed to see her as like.
I mean, maybe if you had seen Jen in some previous.
I wouldn't like her.
If
so
you
much.
saw Jen in season 1.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she did some stuff where I'm just like, you suck. Especially when Dawson and Joey were dating.
Yeah.
Like Dawson and Jen were dating, and then Jen broke up with him, like, all of a sudden. And then Dawson gets together with Joey, which is what's supposed to happen, and then Jen, like, interferes at every fucking step of the way. And I'm like, bitch, you made your choice. You don't like it, but you made your choice. Step off. And she's just like, in.
Step
And all of season 1, Victoria's like, Jen, fucking hate Jen. Jen's such a bitch.
She's
oh
a
my
fucking
god.
drama queen.
Drama queen. Ugh.
Well, that's how I feel about Joey, but for different reasons. And everyone's obsessed with goddamn Joey. On the boys' trip on the boat, they're arguing about Joey. And I wrote, this Joey love triangle is fucking killing me. What does everyone even see in Joey? What is the interest here? I don't understand. She's not that good at art. She's fucking boring. God. Stupid.
Yeah, so we have all the ladies together.
They
And
end up
they're-
going into Dawson's room.
Right.
And they find Goodwill humping.
For a split
Which-
second, hold on, before that. For a split second, we see Jen and Joey team up to lock Abby in Dawson's closet because they all agree Abby's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Andy pops out and she's like, oh my god, guess what I found behind the Steven Spielberg poster?
Goodwill humping.
Goodwill humping. And then they proceed to watch it. They watch a lot of it.
I mean, they watch almost the whole thing.
They watch almost the whole thing before Gail. Where is Gail?
Yeah, Gail's
what is
like,
Gail doing?
all the girls have been missing for like 30 minutes.
Yes.
She wants them to bond because they try to do their little segment.
Oh,
and
they-
it's super awkward.
okay.
So she's like, why don't you girls go?
Watch Goodwill humping together.
Yeah, why don't you guys go like have a moment, like why don't you go pregame in Dawson's room, and then when you're loosened up, we'll come back and we'll film you.
And they loosened up by watching Goodwill humping.
They
Yeah.
sure did. I want to see Goodwill humping.
Yeah, it's a real porno. It must be, right?
It has to be.
I'm
Yeah.
sure someone made that at some point.
Yeah, it has to be. So Gail like finds them, and she's like, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, nothing. Not watching a porno." Oh, Abby tells on Dawson basically.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Mrs. Leary, your son has porn in his room."
Well, that's what she does. She fucking tattletales on everybody.
Yeah. So that's when they've gotten that's their pre-games, watching porn. And then they're able to open up to each other and talk about the real issues.
So meanwhile, Pacey and Dawson and Pacey's father and Dawson's father
And Jack.
are on some kind of fishing weekend competition thing. And this is the first foray we get into Pacey and his father's relationship. We've only heard about it
This is the
so
first
far.
time we've even met Pacey's a parental unit.
Yeah, there's been no actor assigned to this character until now.
And he's
Until
like
now.
your typical blue collar
Well, he's the police.
asshole who
He's
likes
like
to
he's the
get
police chief.
hammered.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's his like.
Yes. So he's like well respected in the community, but you don't see what happens behind closed doors kind of guy. And Pacey has always stressed to Dawson what a fucking dick his dad is and how much his dad devalues him constantly and makes him feel horrible. And Pacey and Dawson doesn't quite buy it. He's like, "Oh, you're just like misinterpreting the dad or like whatever," and we see it happen. And even when we see it happen, Dawson is still like, "Oh, you know, your dad's
not that bad.
Your dad's just kidding. He's joking."
Yeah.
But it continues on. Plus, there's this whole like dynamic where sort of Jack steps in because Dawson is pissed that Jack showed up, and that Pacey didn't warn Dawson that Jack was going to be there.
I'm having some of your rosé.
That's fine.
Because Cindy drank all the red.
There are only 2 bottles for 3 people.
Yeah, we
Usually
normally-
you have one.
But normally
too.
there's
A
four
bottle per
there's
person.
4 glasses of wine in
No,
one bottle.
normally we have 3 bottles of wine for 3 people.
Yeah, we all drank a bottle of wine.
Damn, I'm sorry.
Normally you bought a bottle of wine, Melissa.
I have whiskey right over there.
Ooh, crack it open. Wait, I do have to pee. Should we take a break?
You want to take a break? And we're back. What were we talking about?
I don't know, but that little dial stint was fun.
Maybe that'll be an outtake.
Are we back on the boat?
I
Yeah.
think we're back on the boat.
So
Pacey's dad.
Pacey's dad is a dick.
Mm-hmm.
So Pacey's been trying to explain to Dawson that his dad is an asshole who doesn't have any respect or regard for him, and Dawson doesn't believe it. He's like, "Oh, you're just, your dad is just."
It's because, like, typical Dawson, he's so clueless and oblivious and just, like,
Wrapped up in his own shit.
wrapped up in his
Yeah.
own shit.
So he's like, "Oh, your dad just." He's just kidding or whatever. Or like, "Oh, you're making it to be much worse than it really is. Your dad's fine."
Yeah.
And Pacey's like, "No, my dad really fucking hates me."
Okay, so it's Melissa here. I had a little bit of a recording snafu. I don't know what happened to the audio. So I'm just going to quickly wrap up episode 12. So Dawson can't quite understand why Pacey seems to be having such an issue with his father. And Pacey's just really trying to explain it to him. He's in a pissy mood this whole weekend because his dad's just giving him shit. And they get through the competition, and it turns out it's Pacey who kind of reels in the big fish, and their boat or their team ends up winning first prize. Oh, I guess I should rewind just a little bit. After the first night of this competition, they all head into a bar. Pacey's dad proceeds to get incredibly drunk, and there's this like awkward part where it's the end of the night, and Pacey is like helping his dad try to get back to the boat, and they fall down on the beach because Pacey's dad is just like completely inebriated, and then he kind of has this like conversation with himself about how he just wishes his dad could just realize and actually see that he's making good grades in school. He has a really, perfect girlfriend, and I guess while his dad's passed out, this is the only time that he feels comfortable voicing all of this stuff. Dawson and his dad also have kind of a conversation about their relationship. And then there's also sort of a revelation between Dawson and Jack. Earlier on in the day, they get into it over Joey, kind of like what Cindy was talking about, this like love triangle. And Dawson is just being Dawson. He's being like self-centered, and he's the victim in all of this. Joey was stolen and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, why didn't everyone consider his feelings first and foremost? Just really Dawson being annoying Dawson. So then the following day, like, they're back at the competition, and Pacey ends up reeling in the winning fish for their team. And his dad continues to tell him, like, this is probably the best it's going to get for you. So, you know, enjoy it. And in true fashion, always at the end of the episodes, or always at some point when there's just a few minutes left, Dawson shows signs of being not so self-centered, and he kind of comforts Pacey by saying, hey man, I respect you, I'm proud of you, you're my friend, you know, kind of just I love you. And also reminding Pacey of Andy and how he's got this great girl in his life, and, you know, I guess just trying to say, screw what your father says. Like, you know, you have people around you who don't believe what your father believes about you. And so that kind of consoles Pacey a little bit. Then we kind of get back to the ladies again, and it turns out, so once the girls open up to each other, and without telling each other directly how they feel about each other, they kind of just let it out. And then at the end, we see Joey and Jen kind of reconcile. And I don't know, I can't remember what that leads to in the next episodes, but, you know, at the end of this episode, we're kind of maybe led to believe that their relationship is going to change and get better. And then there's one final moment between Abby and Andy. Abby gets kicked out of the interview session. Gail kind of steps in because Abby is just spewing all sorts of hateful shit. And Gail steps in and just says, okay, thanks, Abby. You know, time for you to go. And it turns out Abby slept out on Dawson's front lawn waiting for her mother to come pick her up. And so her and Andy kind of have a little, also, you know, I guess a lot of revelations are happening in this last episode, in episode 12. There's just kind of this, like, grass is always greener on the other side moment between them. You know, I don't know why Abby wishes that so much drama was in her life, but she does. She thinks her life is boring. And Andy is just like, I wish I had a boring life. I wish I had boring, normal problems like you do. So quit your whining. And Abby shows a little compassion and offers Andy a ride home, because this was like a sleepover girls' night thing, I guess. This interview thing took all the live-long night to get through it. So yeah, that's where we leave things. Like, you know, we don't see a good resolution between Pacey and his dad. You know, also at the end, you know, with Dawson being grateful that Mitch is the father that he is, and, you know, he's grateful and thankful, and, you know, is proud of his dad. And then we'll see how the ladies end up. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens between Jen and Joey. That was it with episode 12. So I'm going to end it here. And thanks for listening. We'll come at you next week, next Monday, for the next 3 episodes. I believe we will be talking about episodes 13, 14, and 15 of season 2 of Dawson's Creek. So don't forget, hit subscribe, leave us a rating and review, helps people find us. Don't forget, our Instagram is @BasicTeenTV. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for taking a listen, and we will see you next week. Bye.